Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Dave.
This is my sixth episode. We just passed 100 downloads. Yay for Inspire Stories of Recovery. If I knew how to work music, I would do that, but I don't know how to do that. But please follow us on social media: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We'll be sending out clips of this Rachel's podcast, and I'm so excited to have her. And normally I say hello twice, but I'm not going to do that because I'm getting better at my podcast. So, Rachel, let's start out with you, young lady. I know you a long time since I've been coming around, and I've been following you. I run into you a couple times, most recently at a convention with you and John, and I'm really excited. So, with no further ado, I'm going to ask you to just introduce yourself and start out like where it all started for you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name's Rachel. I don't like doing things like this, so I'm going to put it out there. I'm a person in recovery. I work a specific 12-step fellowship. I've been abstinent from all substances for 10 and a half years,
Congratulations.
which I never thought I could do, right? I just never thought I could do that. I first came into a program in my 20s. It was 1995. So do the math. And I didn't want to hear it, right? I didn't think I could ever stop using. I didn't envision a life without drugs or alcohol. And I remember walking into a facility and seeing like the 12 steps on the wall and being like, nope, nope, nope. Well, maybe, but no, definitely no. And being really scared by the concept of a higher power. And it's okay. It's okay. I have three dogs. And so I didn't want to hear it. And I didn't stay clean for very long once I left there. I like always met the love of my life
Mm.
in that rehab.
Rachel, can I ask you a question? What at 20 years old, what happened that got you to go to treatment?
I couldn't stop doing heroin.
Okay. Was there
Uh,
an event, jail, or anything?
no, no. I got really, really tired. And I knew I was 23 and I knew that the jig was up, right? I went to school at Penn State. I came home for the summer and I had a raging habit. I didn't really what sent me into rehab is I didn't know where to cop in this area because my addiction started in New York City.
Okay.
And I mean, I could have, I'm sure, figured it out, but at that time I didn't know where to go and I was sick and I went to my mother and told her I'd been doing drugs and they had no idea. I don't know how they didn't know, but they said they had no idea.
No addicts in the family? Anybody in the
No.
family?
Nope.
Just you, huh? The
Just me.
pride and joy.
Well, and the oldest child. And honestly, and you can probably relate to this from a big, successful, highly educated Jewish family. If there
Okay.
were people like me, we sure didn't talk about it.
Exactly. 100%. Good point.
It looks okay. It must be okay.
Right,
So
right.
keep up appearances. I mean,
Yeah. How old were you when you started using?
in any substance.
And then when did in the initial period, besides when you got originally when you went to rehab for the first time, did you was there any point where you felt like people out there that are going to listen to this podcast sometimes look for things that, like I always ask people about, when they what they can relate to when they knew it was too much? Was it just that time when you were 20, or was there a point that in your 20s, I'm sorry, or was there a point when you came when you were like, oh my God, I'm over the line now?
I remember there was a point when and this was a big justification, like I was just smoking weed, like,
Right.
and thinking, realizing to myself and not knowing what to call myself at that point. I didn't have the verbiage that I have
Right.
now, but saying like I'm addicted to this and I can't stop using it. I remember that thought going through my head. I was probably 16 or 17.
Okay. Yeah.
I had to have it. It was a problem if I didn't. I would do what I had to do to get
Yeah.
it.
I
And
got you.
pattern continued with any substance I put in my body. It's just the particular substance, which I opioids, that's my twist. That particular substance is what revealed my issues, my disease to everybody else. Because when I got to that point of a physical addiction, it became harder to hide.
So you're in your 20s, you go to
Mhm.
rehab, you're not receptive to treatment, although you do realize that you have a problem. You meet the love of your life, which is very common in rehab. We've all had many rehab romances for a stock trade. I guess many of us know. And I guess this is in the niece.
Yeah, it was
I'm not
1990.
going to ask you how old you are. I'm just going
I mean,
to.
it doesn't matter. I'm 53. I don't care.
Okay. So we're in the 90s. It's not, I believe that in the 90s, it's still not as open. And you're coming
Not
from
at
a
all.
family. Yeah.
No.
So you get treatment, you tell mom, you meet the guy. Tell us what happens next.
Well, my parents were mortified and
Okay.
they got healthy a lot quicker than I did.
They did.
So
What did they do?
they got therapy, education. They did like all the family groups. They did all the family sessions. They did their own counseling with my younger siblings, and they developed the very tough love approach.
Yes.
The zero tolerance, you use once, you're out. And they were very quick to like, and at the time I didn't understand it, but now having kids of my own, I fully get it, right? Back then I was like, it made me so angry. And I was like, felt they were choosing my siblings over me, but no, they were protecting the children from the adult who was making all kinds of crazy choices, right? Makes sense now. So they started with sending me to a long-term program in Arizona, which
That's after this is your second rehab
that
or
was
still
yeah, because I continued to use.
okay, they kick you out.
So absolutely, when I
You're out
met
on the
the
street.
guy in rehab, and then he showed me where to go in Philly, so it was like back at it again. Yeah, he introduced me to Kent to going to Kensington
Yeah.
to buy what I needed.
Still popular today, by the way.
Yes, and that was 95. It was a totally different ballgame down there
Right.
then. And the
So
ironic thing is my dad is from that same neighborhood I was going back to.
okay. So you go to treatment in Arizona. Tell me about that.
I hated it. It was a TC, which is a therapeutic community.
Mhm.
It was all women. So there
Okay.
goes my hustle.
Yeah, there you go.
It was far away. And what did I do? I used. That's what we do. So because I wouldn't just leave. So I had to get kicked out.
So what do you do? What happens when you get kicked out? Where do you go?
I
The
came back.
parents don't want you, right?
Yeah, I
They don't
came back.
not want you. Not want you, take you. I'm sure they wanted you. That's what people don't understand. And you now in the line of work that you're in, probably deal with parents all the time.
I do. And I have a slightly different viewpoint on it now.
Please elaborate.
Well, I feel, especially with what we see today with the fentanyl and the
Mhm.
xylazine and the metatomidide, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but the adulterants in the drug supply in this area, people seem to die. I mean, we know this. We've seen it over the last 10 years, die from using, like people. And I have more of like a harm reduction approach. But at the same time, I wouldn't allow someone to use in my home, right?
Okay.
And I understand what they did. Like I said, being a mom, it makes perfect sense to me. At the time, I was angry, but I get it. When my husband's daughter died of an overdose in 2016, and we were kind of tough love with her, right? Because I have young children. And so I kind of took that very same stance my parents took as an adult in my own home. So that was interesting to be on that side of it.
Yeah, and we're going to get into all of that because I know that death, and again, sorry about that. I know it's a lot, but I know that inspired a lot of good things in
Absolutely.
life, which we're going to talk about. So, out of your 20s now, two rehabs.
Mhm.
How does the story go from there?
The
No
story
guy, obviously, you can meet in the all female recovery.
I
So
used
what's the plan
came
now?
back to Pennsylvania. went back to state college, got back with someone else I'd been with that I started using opioids, specifically heroin at this time, with, and continued to use. The period of my life from, late summer 95 to September 2001 is kind of foggy. Um, like I jokingly call it the lost years, but there's
Right.
nothing funny about it. I bounced all
Right.
over the country. I tried a million like geographic cures, like we talk about in our program, and didn't realize that the problem was me and the way I thought, not where I am or who I'm around. Because I learned very quickly I'll find whatever I want anywhere I go. And then in 2001, I had a moment where I didn't want to use anymore, right? That I felt that thing we talk about, like using against our will. And I went to treatment and then stayed clean for many years after
Oh,
that
you
point.
did? Tell me about that.
So I went to treatment, stayed clean for many years. In that time, I got married. I had both of my kids. They are both, their biological father is my ex-husband. And I had, I don't know, somewhere like 5, 6 years, somewhere in there. I had two young kids and was incredibly isolated and started not doing all the things I knew we're supposed to do. Kind of forgot like who I am and what I'm capable of.
Was your ex in recovery? Okay. And did he stay clean through the
At first, yes, but I eventually dragged him out with me because that's
So
what
how
I do.
long were you clean when you disconnect, right? Is that what you're saying? So you're doing good in recovery, you're going to meetings, you're doing whatever you need to do, successful treatment, mom and dad are probably back in their life, kids, the perfect life. Who needs an addict now? That was just a bad time. I was unlucky, right?
And right, it was a phase.
Yeah, it was a bad phase. You're a
Phase,
diff-
I should be able to drink at a family event, or I should be able to drink at, a work thing.
you're cured.
Yeah, I was absolutely cured until I wasn't. So it started super innocently at that point. I was in my late 30s by this point. I know we're fast forwarding.
No, go, please. I love it.
And I had a glass of wine at like a work thing and nothing bad happened, right? Nothing bad happened.
Perfect. Right.
I couple later down the road, I had another couple drinks at another thing. Nothing bad happened. By the third time I drank, I went and got what I like, which isn't alcohol. And it was, and I was off to the races again. It was really that simple and that insidious and that like, because I wasn't doing what I had always done in, my 12-step program and wasn't talking to people and had two young kids. And that was incredibly isolating.
How did motherhood change? Now, I mean, each time, like we are talking about the relapses and the treatments before, you're a lot younger, you got no kids. So if you go out and you go crazy and that's it. But now what happens? You're a mother of two, you're in a marriage, you're using tell me about what's going on there. What's the life?
Well, it was terrible. And I dragged these like innocent little lives through my hell of like active addiction.
Right.
At this point, my ex husband had started using with me because like misery loves company, right? So he started using with me. I was really, really unhappy and I didn't see. Once again, here we are again, where I wake up, realize I have a habit, don't see a way out. And you're right, this time I had young children and I stayed out there for several years with them. It was bad. And how much, now they're 21 and 17 and we're able to talk about it, but
What do they
that
say, if you don't mind me asking?
I mean my daughter who's the older one, she didn't like visibly start relaxing until I had about 5 years, right?
Okay.
Because she was the older kid, so she's the one who really remembers everything. She was the kid that was, and I always say this word wrong, was parentified.
That's
So
good.
was made to be, the parent when I wouldn't or couldn't. And I mean, we've had our issues, but we're very, very close. We've worked through everything. My son, 17, now has some issues of his own, which is interesting to be on that other side. So how much did my choices affect him?
Who knows?
I don't know. I don't know.
Let me. Okay, so now what happens? So you're out. The kid. You're on the race. You're out to the races. The husband's using. Your life is a shit show.
So we're in the 2000s and we're well into the 2000s. My ex husband, I had to get away from him because I knew that I feel like oftentimes in relationships, when you use together, it's really hard, if not impossible, to stay clean together. And I knew we wouldn't stay clean together. And I also really, once I saw that side of him and like lived that side of him and that side of me with that side of him, I didn't want that anymore. So I literally had him go to treatment so I could leave. And that's what I did. Not because I cared about his welfare or I wanted him to get clean or live a better life. I wanted to get away from him.
Yeah. So he. So and now you go to treatment one more times, right?
More times. But in a
People
period of
people need to understand that it's never over, right?
three
There's
more times, I went to
three more.
treatment. This was early 2014. I went to treatment in February, March, and then June, and I haven't used since June 2014.
So what about February, March? You come right out and use, go back to
Yeah.
treatment.
The
Is that
first
how it
time
works?
I just went to detox, and I am of a firm believer that detox only doesn't really do much good. I mean,
Not didn't
no,
work well.
it
Yeah.
didn't work for me. I used right away.
Well,
Right.
I'll tell you one thing that
Right.
you probably did that too. I'll tell you one thing that you probably realize. I told you, got clean at 16, right? So it's a lot harder because I got clean again at 50. It's a lot harder to get clean at the age that you got clean at than it
Yeah.
was when you were in your 20s.
I got clean. I was 42 by this point, and I turned 43 in my
Hard,
last treatment center.
harder,
And I
right?
looked around and I was like, I am old enough to be everyone's mother.
Right.
That was
That,
different.
right. Rather than the youngest kid, right?
And it's not cute
Right.
anymore.
Right. Right.
And I thank God I got out when I did because that was right as fentanyl was starting to get real big in our area.
So what changes at 42? I think people need to know what was it that you felt the day you felt it was. I mean, it's never over, obviously, but you felt that that was it. You're on this long-term recovery journey now.
I
Yeah, go ahead.
it wasn't anything to do with me. It was someone telling me I had to go to treatment or I was going to lose custody of my kids. And that
Amen.
was the one thing that like I didn't that was the one I got clean for them in the very beginning. I got clean for them. Eventually it turned into be for me, but in the very beginning on that first day, it was not for me because I sure didn't care about me, but there's still that little part of me that cared about them.
Tell me about your life now. You start to go to meetings regularly,
Yeah, I still go to meetings. Of course, I don't go to as many as I did in the very beginning, but I still go. I still have a sponsor. I have the same sponsor I've had for the last 10 years. Um, I just did everything people told me to do. I had that like gift of desperation we talk about. Where like if you had told me go stand in the corner on your head and you won't have to feel like this anymore, I would have done it. Like I was that desperate. I would have done it. And because I made a decision when I was in that treatment center that I couldn't be like half in, half out because that never works for me. I had to go all in and just throw my hands up and do what other people told me to do.
but you come home. It's not easy because you
Yeah.
come home. You have two little kids.
Well, when
You're
I first got home, I didn't even have them. So I had to get them back.
where the
They
kids were.
were with their father. It was a whole mess. So when I was in treatment, their father, my parents were keeping them, and their father came and got them and took them, and I didn't know where they were.
You must have felt so empty, right?
Yeah, I sat and cried in treatment every day. I sat there and cried. But when I had 54 days clean, and it's a crazy story. When I had 54 days clean, I they were at my parents' house, right? And my own parents were helping to hide my kids from me with the help of my ex-husband.
Is he clean? Is he clean?
Yeah, he is. He continued to use for a couple more years, but today he has about 6.5 years.
That's great, right? It's great for the
Yeah.
kids, great for the whole family
Yeah.
dynamic. And you and him have been able to mend fences, right? I mean, it's
Yeah, we don't like socialize, or we kind of co-parent. He's like a very part-time parent, but it works.
so you get into recovery and you stay clean, you get your kids, and then you meet somebody.
Well, I met him before. I've known John, who's my husband, since 2001. We were friends. We were friends, right? We were really good friends. He's actually the godfather to my 21-year-old daughter.
Wow.
He's her stepfather, but and he's the person that he's been in their lives their whole lives, and he's the one who helped me, raise them, and still does.
So
Mhm.
everything's going along good. You like how I put the stories, right? I
Right.
like everybody up to it. Now, what I'd like to talk about now is how you got involved in recovery houses. From like, I want you to tell people about your recovery.
Okay. So our program's called Another Day Clean. My husband had recovery houses in Philly in the early 90s, and he shut the program down, sometime in the late 90s. And then his daughter Stephanie, she passed away of an overdose on February 16th, 2016. And then later that year, we decided to do something in her honor. There were no really very limited female recovery houses in the area at that time. So we opened a women's house in Pottstown and named it after Stephanie. So Steph's Place. And then the program just took off from there. It just took off from there. By this point, I was working in treatment because I was that person who said, I'm going to work in a rehab.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? Like a lot of us do. And I decided to take it one step further and go to grad school. So I was in a master's program in clinical mental health counseling, and we started opening recovery houses. At this point, I didn't do too much with the houses for about the first year because I was still working in treatment. Then in 2017, I started doing it full time.
So how many houses do you have now?
29.
29 houses. And they're co-ed. You have men's houses,
I have
women's.
8 houses for women and 21 houses for men.
What about sober houses? Do you have the next level?
No, we just do recovery houses. Yeah.
So tell me how somebody would get into one of your recovery houses.
You,
And we'll have information there for your website or other contact information.
yeah.
If anybody wants to reach out.
Really, it's a really simple process. I do all the phone screens, male and female, for Another Day Clean. So it's just as simple as a phone call. And
Okay.
we talk. I ask them a couple questions. I tell them about us, and we see if it's a good fit both ways. We're, like I said, we're a big program. So someone not having money is not an obstacle when they first come in. We help people, replace their IDs, switch their insurance. We'll help with any kind of structural supports. Because the years I worked in treatment, I gained a real strong background in case management. And now being a LPC, we have a full-time CRS in our
What is
office.
an LPC?
I'm a licensed professional counselor.
So you handle all intake yourself? Is that
Yep.
what you're?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a little nutty.
And what's the requirement? Like, how long, when I come in, how long does it, boy, I have to be there? When do I start working?
You can start working right away. We'll help
Okay.
you find a job
Is
quickly.
there a requirement I have to start working in a certain amount of time?
Not necessarily. No, we want people to become self-supporting, you know, fairly soon in their process. So if they don't have an income when they come in, we're going to help them find one. We don't want people to rely on their families longer than they have to, or, I know I always felt better being productive. So I kind of have that philosophy now.
Where do people go? Where do the people come from that go just anywhere, like jail?
treatment centers, correctional facilities, from word of mouth, you name
And
it.
do you do medical assistant houses too?
We do.
Okay.
We do.
So that's really interesting. So it must be hard for you today to manage everything that you got going on. 29 houses, husband, kids, the whole.
And I'm the director of an outpatient. Just got to
Tell
throw
us
that.
about the outpatient. I saw that.
Got to throw that one in. It's called Victory Park Recovery Center.
Okay. Tell me about it.
It's in Marishford. We do PHP, which is partial hospitalization, IOP, intensive outpatient. We have a psychiatric nurse practitioner, so we can do medication management and MAT. We have groups, supervise a fairly large staff here. So I call it like the other part of my life. So it's the part I went to school for, right? The cool thing is with the houses and then the outpatient, and there are some other housing programs in the area, we're able to help close those gaps when people come out of jail or come out of treatment, then they have somewhere to continue to go. If they want to. I mean, if they want to.
So people from your houses use the therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other houses in the area as well. And community, like people come from all over in the area to go to Victory Park.
I'm sure you have a lot of people that don't want to be in the city anymore in Philly that want to get out of the area that go up
Yeah,
to
we sure
your
do.
area. And that's you're in Montgomery County, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Appreciate the times that we got. We're going to have information on how to contact you. But if I'm out, I always ask people if I'm out there struggling right now, just addict to addict, what do you want people to know?
That there's hope. I never felt like I could change. I never felt hope. I felt like I was going to die like that. And, there's a different way if people want it. Like, we're here. People like you, people like me, like, we are here. I will help anybody to, if they want a different way of life. And that might not always look like the way I choose to live. People have different pathways, and that is fine. I, you know, personally and professionally believe in all different kinds of pathways.
That's what I think a lot of people struggle with is they just don't think they can do it this one last time. But your story has given so many people hope because down and out,
Mhm.
rehab after rehab,
Yeah,
kids about to lose kids, and now look at your life. Do you sometimes say to yourself, I am blessed?
absolutely. Every single morning when I wake up and feel like I got over. Yeah.
Yeah. You
Yeah. Yeah, I should be dead. The way I used, the way I lived, the situation I put myself in for years. If life were fair, I wouldn't be here. I
yeah.
certainly wouldn't have the life I have today and the opportunities I've had.
And I think women out there need to hear that even if you feel, or men, obviously, but if you feel stuck in a relationship and you feel like, like that can all be changed, like there's hope for you and I see miracles every day. I'm a big fan of your Facebook page, Another Day Clean, when you show the people that have 1 year, 5 years. That must be like the greatest feeling in the world for you when you post another picture.
I love that. I love it. I love, like, we had a young lady the other day with 8 years. And I remember when she came in and she's just built this life. And it's a privilege to be able to watch that. It's a privilege to be able to give someone an opportunity and they just take it with both hands and really just, there's the hope right there. People like
So,
that.
did I miss anything that you want to say?
Mm,
I want to thank you for coming
well,
on.
yeah.
I think it was great. I think you did great. I think you should be a public speaker. Start TED talks after this. With that, like I said a couple times already, we're going to have a contact number. You want a contact number for Rachel if you want to find out more. Goodbye, everybody.
Yeah, bye.